And now to the story. Another class action lawsuit is looming against mine owners in South Africa. Public interest lawyer Richard Spoor is planning to take on companies owned by Anglo American on behalf of miners who contracted lung disease from years of working in the mines and inhaling coal dust. Now, Spoor has already launched class actions against BHP Billiton, South 32 and Seriti Power. That was in August. And he joins us now to tell us about the latest move. Thank you so much for your time. So the August class action against the companies I've just mentioned, and this one against 9 Anglo American companies, I presume you separated them, just because it's easier to do it that way? Just explain the thinking behind that.
In the class action pertaining to gold mine workers, we consolidated all the actions into a single action against the gold mining industry. But in this instance, we've split it up between the major coal mining companies, largely to prevent the mining companies raising a particular defense, which is that they should not be joined in the same class action. We anticipate they may contend that the conditions in their various mines were different, and therefore their claims shouldn't be consolidated. And it's largely to avoid that we're going group by group. But we are hoping nonetheless that they will engage with each other, take responsibility on a collective basis, and that we will be able to deal with them as a group. That is far more advantageous to us and to the workers, and I think to the industry, if we can do it on that basis.
I see. How many workers are you representing?
It's a class action, so we filed action where the applicants are a number of individuals who are fairly representative of the mines and the period that we're talking about and the diseases. So we have about 20 workers in this particular matter who are coming as class representatives, but the total number of miners involved run into tens of thousands of individual persons who will stand to benefit if these proceedings are successful.
Of course, you've got a lot of experience. I think your first success was with the asbestos mining companies, and that won millions for former employers, former miners. The gold mining silicosis case, which you've just referenced, that took a long time in court. We're also seeing problems with delayed payments, but you certainly won, and a lot of people have received payouts. Could it be as large as the gold mining case?
Coal is not quite on the scale as gold, on the same scale as gold. So we're probably anticipating a settlement, if we can achieve one, that is smaller. But we certainly hope to have learned from our experience with asbestos and silicosis. We've refined the approach, we've refined the relief we're seeking for, and we hope to achieve an outcome quicker and more effectively than we've done in the past. And we hope also that we can structure a settlement scheme that is more cost-effective and delivers better benefits quicker for workers than we've done in the past. So all of this stuff is fairly pioneering, I suppose. And we're learning as we go along. We hope we're getting better at it. In every instance, the merits are with us, the morals of the case, the merits on an ethical basis are behind us. We just need to bring the other parties on board, persuade them that it's in their interest to settle and do better than we've done in the past. And that's really the ambition here.
Yeah. Talk to me about coal dust and what is known for sure. I mean, will part of your class action have to be proving there's a link between lung conditions and coal dust, or is there a ton of evidence already out there?
Well, as was the case with asbestos and silicosis, these diseases have been well understood for decades, many decades, 100 years plus. The only reason that these diseases are so prominent here is because of the legacy of apartheid. a historical legacy where the lives of black workers were valued much less than they ought to have been, and where labor was a commodity to be used, consumed, and discarded when they were no longer fit to work. So this litigation is largely, I mean, although it's been quite a few years since we entered into this new democratic dispensation, it is about addressing the legacy of apartheid, the legacy of migrant labor, the legacy of racism that is so intrinsic and central to the history of mining in this country.
Of course, some of the cases date back to 2002, which is in the democratic era. So obviously a legacy can continue for many, many years. But it did lead me to wonder, especially if we're looking at the standoff that's going on at the Gold One mine underground at the moment between the two unions facing off, with one of the unions, AMCU, saying that NUM is far too much allied with mine management. It makes one wonder if there are still grave injustices being committed in mining in terms of, specifically around health issues. Or do you believe that mining has very much cleaned up its act?
It's a difficult question. I think what we have seen is that the more enlightened or progressive companies have kind of moved out of the ugly side of mining. So the coal mining industry has been totally restructured. The gold mining industry has been restructured. Unfortunately, a lot of it entails the established players moving out of the business and handing over to black empowerment companies who are left with the ugly legacy of mining. And we saw the same thing with asbestos. The sophisticated, large multinational corporations moving out and trying to distance themselves from this legacy, and BEE companies moving into the sphere. In asbestos, it was Afrikaner capital that kind of moved into the gap to kind of pick it up. But now, in this modern era, it's more BEE companies moving into the coal and the gold sphere and picking up this mess in the hope of a quick profit, but they are finding, that it's more problematic than might have appeared. They're going to have to deal with this legacy.
Talk to me about timelines now, because the gold case took, I think, 15 years. How long do you think this might take? I mean, it obviously depends on whether the gold miners are going to join together. It might make it a lot easier. But what is your sense of how long this might take? And what's the very next step that is going to happen now that, since your August action and the announcement this week that you're taking on Anglo American?
Well, these proceedings are primarily to secure the agreement of the court that this litigation can be undertaken as a class action. I honestly don't expect any significant opposition here, because a class action is a procedure, a mechanism that's been developed over a very long time, first in the United States and latterly spread around the world, whereby large matters can be disposed of efficiently and quickly and at minimal cost. Bringing these proceedings as individual proceedings would be inordinately expensive and time-consuming and difficult. So the question that the mining companies are confronted with is, look, are we going to agree to a class action process? If they do so, we issue summons, we give notice to the parties, and we proceed the same way as we do in an ordinary trial. We've done a lot of homework. Our experts are lined up. The data we require to prove our claims is lined up. And we could go to trial within the next 2-3 years if the companies are willing to test their defense against the facts. And to subject their defense to the scrutiny of the courts. So if the matter is disputed, we could resolve this matter within the next 3, 4, 5 years. If, however, we can find some accommodation with each other, this matter could be resolved in 2 years.
All right. Thank you so much. And we will certainly be watching this case as it develops. Human rights lawyer Richard Spoor just telling us about their plans to launch class action suit against Anglo American. And this, of course, is relating to the coal mines. You'll know that he's been successful, of course, around class action against gold mining and earlier against asbestos mining and the impact that it has had on many miners.